Welcome to the first edition of the Pony Pundits. I'm Marco D'Angelo. You can follow me on Twitter at Marco in Vegas. I'm going to bring in my good friend, Sig Las Vegas. You can follow him on Twitter as well. Sig, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great, Marco. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no problem. And you know what? The new show's called The Pony Pundits. That won out over... We're going to call it the horses, you know what, rhymes with cash a little bit, but we couldn't figure out which one of us would be the lead character in that title, so we went with the Pony Pundits instead. Sig, we're going to be talking about today, a lot of people are coming to horse racing for the first time. Why? Well, because if you're looking for something to bet on right now in the U.S., there's not many options, and horse racing actually... the few tracks that are running right now are staying open. They're supplying us with some activity, some enjoyment, a little bit of a diversion for our day, and you can make wagers on it. Now, because of what's going on across the country, these racetracks are running with no fans. It's just the people connected with the horses to get them to the races, so that they're doing their part as well for this. And as a horse owner, Sig, even if there's a shutdown across the country, horse workers all across the country are still have to go to work and go to the barns and care for these horses each and every day. I know that, what's involved with the horses. They need stalls cleaned, they need fed, and horses that are in training need to get out and get worked. So they might as well run the horses and give us some enjoyment. I know you're happy that we've got horse racing right now.
Oh, it's great being the only game in town, that's for sure.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I said the backstretch workers, a lot of them actually live at the track while the track's in season, so that's their home. They're up in the morning with the horses. They're there to work them, to bathe them, to feed them at night.
It's a never-ending job, let me tell you that. I know from the bills I get from my trainer every month there, saying, hey, as new people have take this first section, and this might be just basic and boring to a lot of people that already know horse racing, but a lot of people don't know what all the terminology are. So, Sig, we're going to go back and forth and just say all of the different types of bets and what they are so people understand them when we're talking about them through the shows during the coming weeks. And the most simplest bet, and if you're a newbie and you just want to break yourself in, the easiest way to do it is go to the track, bet win, place, and show. Sig, explain what win, place, and show is.
Win, place, and show are basically the easiest bets in horse racing. The win bet is you're betting $2 or more. $2 is always the minimum bet on your horse to win that race. Place bet is if your horse finishes either in first place or second place, you're going to get paid on that bet. And shows if your horse finishes in the third place, you're going to get paid on that bet.
Yes, and just a quick note, the place bet, if the horse wins the race, you're going to get what is in the second column. There's a win column, a place column, and a show column. And generally, win is always going to be more, place is going to be the second most, and show will be smaller unless something crazy happens, and that's something we'll talk about in other shows, and that would be a reference to bridge jumpers. Exacta, simplest next bet, that's you're betting two horses to finish 1-2. You're picking them in the exact order. You can do what is called an exacta box. And that would be if you go to the window and you say, give me a $2 exacta box, 1-2. That means it doesn't matter if the race finishes 1-2 or 2-1, you get the winner. So moving from an exacta, Sig, the next step, we keep progressing, would be what?
The next logical step is the trifecta, which is the exacta basically to the third power. You're picking the first three finishers in order. The winner, the place horse, and the show horse. You have to finish in that exact order. As with the exacta, you can do a box where you put three or more horses into a wager and get all the combinations of those horses. You can also operate use as a key, where you take one horse and you put it in a specific spot and then work the other horses around it on the wagers.
and going from a trifecta, well, let's just continue growing, kind of like my waistline during this quarantine right now. Let's add another level, and that would be the superfecta sig, and that would be a trifecta, adding another horse, picking the first 4 horses in order. Again, you can do it for $2 and say, I want 1, 2, 3, 4. They got to run 1, 2, 3, 4. But if you go to the window and say, I want a $2 superfecta box, well, then you get all those 4 horses in every possible combination. But that would end up costing you a $2, would cost you $48 on a superfecta 4-horse key. After a superfecta, and that's all in one particular race. All those that happens in that race. They have multiple race wagers. The first one is the one that's been around the longest, Sig, and that is the daily double. And explain to our listeners what a daily double is.
On the daily double, what you're looking to do is pick the winner of 2 consecutive races. So if you're betting the daily double to open today's card, you want the winner of race number 1 and the winner of race number 2. Once again, you're looking at a minimum $2 base wager. And if you have the winner of the first race, you can go to the second race, and they have what's called the will pays. You can see what you're going to win if your horse that you have in the second place does win that race as well. You can also work this as not exactly as a box, but you can choose multiple horses in each or both legs of your daily double. So you may pick one horse that you feel are really confident in the first leg of it, and there's 3 horses you like in the next leg. So you're playing 1 horse by 3 horses, or with a $2 base wager, you're looking at a $6 daily double.
And looking at from the daily double, over the last several years, we've had wagers that have become very, very popular, and that is the combinations of several races. Like a daily double, you're picking the winner of 2 straight races in the what is called pick 3s, pick 4s, pick 5s, pick 6s. You're doing that over that many consecutive races. A pick 3 would be picking the winners of 3 straight races. Pick 4 would be 4, pick 5, 5, and then, of course, pick 6, 6. Now, there is a difference in the pick 6. Some tracks have what they call a rainbow pick 6, and that is one that is currently being run at Gulfstream Park. And, Sig, when you hit a pick 6, you hit. No matter how many people have the correct combination, if they pick all 6 winners of those 6 races, they win, but they divide the prize pool. On a rainbow pick 6, this is different. And explain to our viewers what's different about a rainbow pick 6 and why there's so much buzz this Saturday regarding Gulfstream's pick 6.
The rainbow pick 6 and the jackpot pick 6s have become more prevalent over the past few years. And the biggest difference is between the traditional pick 6, which used to be basically a $2 wager and used to be large tickets. Most of these are based on 20-cent increments, and you have to have a single unique ticket to win the entire jackpot. Otherwise, they distribute 80% of, in most cases, at most tracks, 80% of what's gone into the pool for that day, and 20% goes into a rollover that keeps building that jackpot. Now, this Saturday, Gulfstream has said they're going to have a mandatory payout, which is a force out of the pick 6. So no matter how many people have a winning ticket on Saturday, they're all going to split that jackpot amount.
And Sig, earlier this week, one of the questions that we did get on Twitter, and this is a good time for me to throw that in there. And guys, anytime you have a question for us, you can hit us up on Twitter, something you want us to cover, and we'll do that on future shows. But he asked me, he said, hey, the other day there was 6 out of 6 at Gulfstream. Why didn't they get the jackpot? And that is just what you were explaining, is that there has to be one winner and one winner only to take the rainbow pick 6 unless it is a forced payout. So that day, whenever it was 6 out of 6, all the people that had 6 out of 6 divided a pool, and they each got, I think it was 700 and something that day, but the carryover continued because there wasn't one unique winner. This Saturday doesn't matter, unless, of course, we're filming here today on Friday. There's a chance somebody could hit the pick 6 today, the rainbow pick 6, and if there was one winner, then the jackpot would go today. But most likely, Sig, we're looking at it. It's going to be in there Saturday, and with the carryover amount any time that there is a big carryover like that, and I know the pool's already over $2 million, it just explodes because what ends up happening, and I used to do this back at my home track there in Pennsylvania at the Meadows and such, when you're at the track, there's groups of guys that are big bettors, okay? And when there's a carryover like this, it's such an inflated pool that they want to bet more money and spread themselves out further to try to hit that ticket. And because everybody's going to be spending more money than they normally would in that race, and they'll pool their money together to make those and create those bigger tickets that have a lot of long shots included, so that if the long shot does hit the board, they're live on that big carryover. And that's what you'll see happen on Saturday. And that pool, especially with the Florida Derby on Saturday, is going to be insane. And I know it's a great time to jump in and try to take your swing at hitting a big price.
Yeah, they're saying that right now, as of today, it's guaranteed $2.1 million. If it carries over today into tomorrow with all the betting on the track, tomorrow is actually the biggest day of the spring meet, the winter meet, the championship meet at Gulfstream. I expect to see that pool grow to about $7 million at least.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. And we're going to talk, and that's a good point for us to tell everybody that today we are going to have a little bit later in the show, we're going to give out a pick 4 for Saturday's card, and our pick 4 will actually cover the first 2 races of the pick 6. So you'll get some of our plays for the pick 6, and then we're also going to preview the Florida Derby, which is one of the races of the pick 6, the Rainbow pick 6 on Saturday. So you're going to get 3 of the 6 races covered here on the show, and we're also going to have a race of the day today at Gulfstream. We're going to feature and break down race number 9 for you and tell you a little bit of how we handicap and break that race down for you. Before we get to that, Sig, I want to talk to you. The big news this week was the situation, not this week, they announced it actually last week, but the Kentucky Derby. Tradition, it's always the first Saturday in May. And I know that's also a tradition for you, the first Saturday in May. You're usually out here visiting me for the Kentucky Derby. A lot of nice Kentucky Derby parties out here. Here in Vegas, we all like to go to the South Point on Kentucky Derby Day. Well, we won't be doing that on the first Saturday of May this year. They have pushed the Derby back to September, first Saturday in September. Sig, how do you think, does it affect the horses in any way? What's your thoughts on this? And I have a vision both ways of how it's going to help some horses and going to hurt some. Tell me your thoughts.
I definitely agree, Marco. It's going to be a huge change this year. First off, because a number of horses and trainers had their horses pointed towards Derby preps that aren't going to occur here in the next couple of weeks, including the Wood Memorial at Aqueduct and the Bluegrass at Keeneland. Keeneland actually canceled their entire meet, and their spring meet is my favorite meet of the year, so I'm actually a little depressed about that. What's going to happen, though, is a lot of horses mature at different paces throughout the year as well. So the first Saturday in May, some of the horses that you see that might have more success later in the season, say the Haskell or the Travers at Saratoga, are going to have that time to develop, and you're going to have trainers that take longer to develop their 3-year-old horses as well. You see a lot of the same trainers that win the Kentucky Derby on a regular basis, and they have their horses ready for May. Other trainers take more time to develop their horses and to train their horses. So you're going to see some of these trainers and some of these horses have a better opportunity adding 4 months onto the training schedule and the racing schedule before they get to this year's Kentucky Derby.
Yes, Sig, the other thing that I want to point out is every year for the Kentucky Derby, you would hear people say there's like certain things that, you never do this. You never bet a horse to win the Kentucky Derby that didn't race as a 2-year-old. You know what? You can throw that one out the window this year. Any horse that didn't race as a 2-year-old but did hit the 3-year-old campaign trail early and was able to get enough points to get into the Derby is actually going to have a benefit with this now being in September, because the reason horses, and I know a couple of years ago, I think it was Justify was the horse that defied that, logic. There had not been. Oh, nice cup there, Sig. Like that.
Cheers.
The situation with Justify is he didn't race as a 2-year-old, and we had to go all the way back to I forget what year it was, and but Apollo was the horse, the last horse that raced that won the Derby that didn't race at 2, and the reason for that is they didn't have that foundation under them yet, and to win a Triple Crown race against the best horses in the country was just too much to ask of a green horse. Well, now those green horses are not going to be green. And for people that don't understand what that word green means, in horse racing, it's a horse that's inexperienced, still has a lot to learn. Now that horse is going to have an extra 3-4 months of maturity. And that's why we see so many horses that you never heard of yet at the beginning of the Kentucky Derby trail. But then at the end of the year, this horse is a gorilla. And you say, well, where did this horse come from? Come from nowhere. No, the horse just was a late bloomer, wasn't ready to get to the Derby and race in those early Triple Crown races, but was a force for those later races, and then maybe parlay that into a Breeders' Crown or Breeders' Cup race later in the season. So that's one of the big changes. Now, for horses that were on the trail and, ready to go and played these and raced in these early races that did get run and have enough points to get into the Derby, they got to stay in shape all the way to September now. A lot of times you'll see horses run that Triple Crown circuit and then take a break from June till late July, beginning of August to get ready for those other races. Like you said, the Haskell or the Travers later in the season that are big races. Of course, the meet at Saratoga every August. That's, we talk about, I know Keeneland's one of your favorite racetracks, Sig, and was my favorite racetrack until I traveled to Del Mar. There's nothing beats opening day at Del Mar, guys, and anybody that's in, you want to put a guy's trip bucket list together, put opening day at Del Mar as one of the things you want to do in your lifetime. Trust me, you'll thank me later. But Saratoga is one of those racetracks that everybody says you've got to go to. That's just a special meet, that town where it's at, it's small, it's just a great atmosphere there. So now people are going to have to, change their training schedules to be ready for all those big races that are going to come later. And we'll see what happens. The big race this Saturday is the Florida Derby. Pretty much you win this race, you're set for the Kentucky Derby. You'll have enough points, possibly even a second place horse will have enough. So this is a key race on Saturday, and we're going to talk about that race in detail in a little bit. Sig, let's go to the race of the day so people can get that. And while they're listening to us, they can jump online and make their bets for today. You picked this race for us to look at on the Gulfstream card. And for those of you that don't know, Sig does cover Gulfstream every day. He puts out a racing report. Sig does it on a daily basis. He picks one meet and goes with it. He always does Gulfstream right now. When Gulfstream meet closes, generally, he jumps over to Keeneland's meet, but that's not going to be the case this year, as Keeneland is not going to run their meet. And I know that's a big disappointment. Lexington, Kentucky, they live and breathe horse racing, and that's they're going to miss that this year. So, Sig, what race are we looking at here on the Friday card?
We are going to race 9 here at Gulfstream. Post time scheduled for 5:12, which in Gulfstream time is about 5:30 probably. They're
the only track that when they put up 0 minutes to post, you got about 4 or 5 more minutes at Gulfstream. And whenever there's a rainbow pick 6, it'll be about 10 minutes past post for sure.
Oh, yeah. When they go on the race 9, which is the first leg of tomorrow's mandatory payout, I would expect probably a 15 to 20 minute delay. They want to get as much money as they can into that pool. But back to race 9 today, like I said, 5:12 on the card. We're looking at, as one of my key races on the day, there's a horse I really like that came in off a bad trip in his last race, and that's the number 7, Silver Ratio. It is a Todd Pletcher trainee. And Javier Castellano was named to ride this horse, but he is in quarantine right now. He was diagnosed earlier this week with the COVID-19 virus. Joe El Rosario was named to replace him this morning on that mount, and I think Joel will give the horse a better ride than he got last trip out from Johnny V. What I'm looking to do is put him into an exacta with the one horse, which is Money Moves, the 3-horse Soros, and the 4-horse Our Nation Parade, and a horse that drew in here, the 13, Mr. Candy Ride. So if you do a $2 exacta key using the 7-horse with the 1, 3, 4, and 13, you're looking at an $8 base bet on that. I'm also looking to carry this over into the previously discussed daily double. So we're looking to pick the winner of this 9th race, the number 7 Silver Ratio, and we're going to team them up with the horses 5 and 9 in the 10th race. A $2 daily double will cost you $4 there.
All right, we're pretty much the same numbers, just a little different order in a race 9. And I can't argue with you on your rationale for the 7-horse. And one of the things that we will be doing in coming segments of the show is we're going to be talking about different things that you can use to help your handicapping. And one of them, what you just said, is watching the replays. And you saw that this horse had a troubled trip last time, and you thought with a clean trip he would have been an easy winner. Go back and look at these races and look at race replays and watch them a second time. That is a good tip for today, because when you watch a race live, too often all you are focused on is the horse you bet. Okay, I mean, that's human nature. Your eyes are watching him the entire race, where he's at, what he's doing. Then you start saying, come on, boy, come on, number 7. And you're just focused on him. Go back after the race and watch the replays, and watch it with open eyes, not focused on your horse, but focused on the entire field, and see if there's horses that have a troubled trip. Fast story. Just a couple weeks ago, I was watching a race. I was at the sports book, and I saw a horse get horrible trip. Blocked in, got checked twice down the lane. I immediately texted my good buddy back there, Sagan. I told him, listen, because I know you have a virtual stable that you keep track of horses and trip notes. I said, please put this horse in your stable and let me know when he runs the next time, or she, because it's going to be an easy winner. Sig, you wanna tell us what happened with that horse I told you to put in there?
Well, Marco, I was traveling those couple days that horse did come back here and race last Friday, a week ago. Or no, I'm sorry, 2 weeks ago at this point. 2 weeks ago, I was on the road. I did not put out plays for that Friday, and your horse came back and won a race.
Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Good. Yeah. I just actually a couple days ago texted him and said, hey, did this horse ever race yet? And then I got this sad face emoji. He raced the one day I took off. Thanks, bud. Okay, let's go to my picks for today. And I have the 7, but I don't have him winning the race. I'm going to the other Todd Pletcher horse in this race, and that's number 1, Money Moves. Obviously, talking my business out here in Vegas and sports betting, and we talk about money moves and line moves and everything. And it's just a great name for a horse, Money Moves. And Todd Pletcher, they spent some money for this horse, and I got to look close at my program here. This was a $975,000 purchase. They raced the horse one time. They didn't race him at 2. First start was in February, and the horse won easily, breaking his maiden. No problems there. High expectations for this horse. I look for him to move forward off of that race. Has been training well since then. In looking at when I say horses are training well, when you get a racing form, they have the horse's most recent workouts listed there. And when you look at these, the barometer to look at a horse that's training well is they generally will breeze a horse 3, 4, 5 furlongs. Sometimes they stretch them out to 6 furlongs. Every furlong is 12 seconds. So if you got a horse that went 3 furlongs and the workout was 36 and change, that horse was sharp. 4 furlongs, 48. Obviously, if they go a tick under the 12 seconds per furlong, they're really rolling. The best training pattern you will see that most trainers use is you will see a 4 furlong in 47 and change or 48, and then the next time they'll go a little slower, 4 furlongs, 50 seconds. They don't drill them every time. But when you see one that's in a pattern of fast, then a little slower, fast, then a little slower, they're gearing them up for a big race. And I like what I saw on the training with Money Moves. My second choice, I will put the 7 horse there. I'll put him in there second in my list with that trip trouble last time. And then go to number 4, and that is our Nation on Parade. I think this horse has a big shot, has been racing well. This is a horse that's changed trainers. First start out and putting Paco Lopez on him. I'll tell you what, they could enter a donkey at Gulfstream and put Paco up, and I think he'll get the horse to the quarter pole on top. This guy is just a phenomenal rider. I think didn't he win 6 or 7 races one day last week, Sig?
He won, I believe, 7 on last Saturday.
Yeah, just incredible. He's in the zone right now. You can't leave him off the ticket. And then for my third spot, I put a long shot in here, Sig, number 3, Soros. And this is a horse, just 2 starts, didn't raced last year twice late in the year and making his first start off the bench for 2020. Generally, I like to see a horse have a race under his belt, but this is one of those horses that has been training the way I like to see a horse train coming in here, and I think he's got a big shot in his opening race here today, and I got to put him on the ticket. So for me, it's 1, 7, 4, 3. Basically, we're on the same numbers on the top 4. The 13 horse that you mentioned, to be honest, I really didn't look at him overnight because he was also eligible, but there has been a scratch, so he will move into the race. He will have that outside post position, but this is a horse that has been improving and did break his maiden last time out, so he has a license to improve. If I put him anywhere in my exotics, I would probably have him on the bottom end of a trifecta. So that is race 9. Recapping my plays, it's 1, 7, 4, 3. And you've got, Sig, once again?
It is 7 with the 1, 3, 4, and 13.
All right. Good luck there. And we had a question come through on us. Somebody asked, how do you do a box and how do you figure that out? If you do a 3 horse, when you say a box, generally people are going to do it. The tickets, the minimum bet is $2 on one ticket. That's the amount of the ticket. If you're playing a trifecta box, you can do it for as low as 50 cents or $1 or $2 or any number above that. A $1 box on a trifecta, that's 3 horses. To cover all of the combinations, there would be 6 combinations to do, and that comes out to $6 if you're doing a $1 try. If you do it for the full $2 price, of course, it would be $12. If you play something for $1 and they put up the prices at the racetrack and you see $2 trifecta paid $250, you have a $1 ticket. You got half of that. You got $125. And of course, then if you played a 50-cent ticket, you got a fourth of that, but it's not costing you as much. And it enables you to play some trifectas a little deeper if you want to play a 50-cent try or do a 50-cent, key where you're putting maybe 5 or 6 horses on the third line of that trifecta. So I hope that answered your question, and we love you guys to give us questions. We'll answer them. If we get them here on air, we'll try to answer them as we go, and if we don't, we definitely will get to questions next week. Sig, we talked about providing a pick 4 for Saturday action. And generally speaking, Sig, when you give out a pick 4 on a regular race card, what do you put into what's your average wager you like to invest on a pick 4? Total ticket cost.
A lot of it depends upon the card that day, but on a typical weekday card, I'm looking at a ticket somewhere between $30 and $40. I have put some smaller tickets in when I have some strong opinions, a couple bigger tickets in. But on a bigger day, like a Derby day, the Florida Derby day coming up tomorrow, you're going to have more money in the polls, so I have no problem playing a little bigger ticket. You also have a very competitive card. There's 10 stakes races on tomorrow's card out of 14 races on the card. So we're looking at some quality races and some quality horses running tomorrow.
Yeah, I talk about this every year with the Kentucky Derby. I'll spend total on a Kentucky Derby probably between $300 and $400 in my wagers for that one race. And the reason I do that, Sig, is just what you said. There's so much more money in the pools those days on those special days because it's an event. People come to the racetrack just for the event. People watch the races on TV because it's an event, and then they want to be a part of it and they want to bet it. And unlike sports betting, Sig, when you're betting in sports, you have a 50-50 chance. You pick you take a team plus or minus the points, you either win or lose. But you're betting against the house. They're charging you 110 to win 100. That's what it is all the time. When you're betting horse racing, you're not betting against the house. The house doesn't give a rat's butt on who wins the race because the payouts are going to be the same. There's, whatever is in the pool. Let's say there's 100,000 in the pool. The racetrack makes a set percentage of that hold. Okay. Then there's different holds for win, place, and show, exactas, the exotic wagers. They take a percentage of that right off the top. In poker, in a tournament, we call that the rake, where, they take their money. They make their set money. Doesn't matter who wins the race. What does matter is the rest of that money that's in the pool, that's you competing against everybody else that bet. And if there's people, and we use this phrase in poker as well. In fact, our president of our company, the Prez, his nickname is Dead Money. Okay. And when he comes to the poker table, people figure this is dead money. We're going to get his money. Well, people that don't know what they're doing betting horses is dead money. And it's inflating the pool, and it gives me a better chance. Right now, in my ear, our producer is giving me a little bit of fun time because I just called him out. Yeah, Prez is listening to the show, but this is why betting the Kentucky Derby presents such a value. If you know what you're doing. And a few years ago, this is a selfless plug, but I sell my Kentucky Derby selections in big races as well. I'll sell some stuff for tomorrow for the Florida Derby. We gave out the Kentucky Derby a few years ago, Sig. And if you remember, I jumped up. We were at South Point. My chair went flipping over when we turned that $390 investment into over $9,000 that day in one race at the Kentucky Derby because of the pools being. And I was shocked when the prices come up. I'm thinking $3,000-$4,000 for the trifecta that day, and because of the inflated pool, it was $8,000 just for the trifecta, and we crashed the exacta. So yes, spending more money on a bigger race day makes sense. So now getting to our pick 4s that we're going to give out for free. You've put together a ticket and I've put together a ticket. My ticket is $90 to cover the pick 4. Your ticket is how much?
$77.
Oh, look at that. Value Sig. He gets in 77, a little less. So let's start with the first race, and that pick 6 that we're going to do on Saturday at Gulfstream Park starts with race number 7. And Sig, where are you going for race 7 for your first leg of the pick 6?
Okay, guys, just to let you guys, the viewers know, I am giving you guys 3 horses here in the first leg in race 7. I'm giving them to you in my order of preference. So if you're looking to cut a ticket down, take it from the bottom horse on the list. We're going. My top choice in that race is going to be the 7 Walk in Marrakesh. I think I pronounced that correctly. He's coming in off his second start off a long layoff, and she finished a game second in the Florida Oaks at Tampa Bay Downs. I look for her to improve off that effort. It's their second start also for a new trainer, and I'm looking for her to sit off the lead and pounce down on the stretch. She's a 6-1 on the morning line, and it's a great way to kick off that pick 4 if we can bring her home. 6-1. My second choice here in race 7 is the 5 horse, Cheermeister. It's hard not to like this one, but he goes out to the lead, and I get the feeling the 7's just going to sit off of him. So the 5's going to take the lead. The way I'm seeing this race, the 5's going to take the lead right out of the gate. 7's going to sit right off of the pace and make a move on the 5 horse. The 5 likes to take him from the front to the start. He wants to go out, break out of the gate, take the lead, and not look back. And I get the feeling here that based on the distance and the conditioning on the 7, the 5's going to lead this race, but the 7 looks to come down. If any other horse here can upset these two, I think it's the number 8. She's My Type. It's a lightly raced filly. This is only her 4th career start, and she's been competitive in each outing. And I never count out Christophe Clement on the turf.
Good stuff there, Sig. I'm going this race. This is the race that I'm going deeper in, but I'm going to start by saying I ended up going 5 deep in this race, and I almost keyed a horse in this race. That's how much of a drastic thing. If I was going to key one horse in this entire pick 4, it would be in this first race, and it would be number 7, Walk in Marrakesh. This is a horse. I love the pattern. First of all, this horse is 7 for 7 lifetime hitting the board. 3 wins, 3 seconds, and a third. That first start, as you said, at Tampa, finished second, just beaten a neck in that race. First race off of the layoff, but more importantly, Sig, this horse came from overseas. So you had that travel and everything else, and then to race that good out of the gate. How many times have we seen shippers come in from Japan or somewhere for the Kentucky Derby and always look good on paper, but they don't run good here? They should come here and race in some of the prep races if they want to take a shot at the Derby. And this horse, I think, is going to have a monster race today. Now, as much as I like the 7 and considered keying it, if this horse doesn't have enough foundation, only that one start under its belt, is it enough? Will the horse continue to move forward? If it doesn't move forward, if the horse moves forward, I think wins easily. I think maybe by open lengths. But if not, then who's second best? And from there, I've got 4 horses that I got a blanket over as far as second best. So I'm going 5 deep here, and we'll talk about this at the end. If you want to make the ticket smaller, you can by dropping a horse off, each, tier if you want. But I'm going to read the horses in the order that I like them. When you're calling them off to the teller, it's generally, if you like 1, 2, 3, 4, but you like it actually 4, 3, 2, 1, you don't read it that way. You always say 1, 2, 3, 4 in sequence. But I'm going to read them to you in the actual order that I like them. So if you know you want to drop a horse off, you drop the tail end horse off because that's the least of the order. But after the 7, I go to the 5. You mentioned the 5 as well, Cheermeister. This is the horse that's going to get the lead. Depending if how hard this horse is pressed, we'll see what the horse has for the stretch. He's had enough the last couple races, and this is a horse that's won 4 out of 5 races. So looks like the horse, that they're going to be chasing down and have to beat. The next horse I go to is number 9, Seducer. This is as you said, Clement, great turf guy. And he usually has horses ready to fire. Horse had 1 start, an easy win back in November, freshened up, ready to start the 3-year-old campaign. After the 9, the 8, She's My Type. This is a horse that's been improving with each start. come off back-to-back wins, and then in the last start, stepped up in class, but raced a good race, even though the horse finished fourth, got beat only a length and a quarter. And my last one would be the long shot horse in here, and that's Stunning Sky. And the reason for this horse, two great races, back-to-back wins. And then in the last race, had a problem at the start of the race, and then the race went slow fractions, and she was coming from way out of it, made a middle move past some horses, and then flattened out in the stretch. If you just take the pen and put a line through that start, this is a horse that would have to be considered in this race. But given the field and how competitive it is, I just putting it in the second, on that last tier. So for me, it's 7-5-9-8-3 in the first leg. Go to race 8. Sig, who do you got?
Well, odd thing, Marco, here is there's 4 races in this pick 4 sequence. 3 of them are on the turf. This one's on the dirt. Normally, the ones on the turf are the ones I'm looking at to make a larger investment in because turf racing you seem to see more long shots win in a turf race than you do in a dirt race. But out of the sequence, this was the most tightly contested race I felt in the sequence here, and it is a dirt race. I went with the 3, Last Judgment. It's 4-1 listed on the morning line. The Todd Pletcher trainee has Johnny V in the irons. He's making his second start off a 7-month layoff. He looked good winning in his return to Gulfstream here back on February 7th, and I think we'll see some improvement second off the layoff today. The second horse that I used here was the 8-horse Vekoma, 9-2 on the morning line. We haven't seen Vekoma since last year's Kentucky Derby. He was never a factor there, but he did win the Bluegrass Stakes at Keeneland, which was the prep for that Derby. Don't know what to expect from him today, as he hasn't been on the track in that long, but I can't count him out. He's a quality horse, and this might just be a start of a nice 4-year-old season. Another 4-year-old that I remember didn't have the greatest Derby, but had a hell of a 4-year-old and 5-year-old season was Gunrunner, so might be looking at another one of those there. The third horse I went with in here is the 7, Jackson. He's 5-1 on the morning line, and he's a versatile colt that was last seen winning the World of Trouble here at Gulfstream last month as well. He sat just off the pace setter and then closed in the stretch. He likes to press the pace, but he's also shown the ability to come from off the pace. So I think whatever type of ride he gets tomorrow from jockey Jaramillo will get him going, and he likes to get him going fast. So I see him on the lead and hopefully making a move here in the stretch if necessary. And the 4th horse here, I narrowed it down. I almost left this guy off my ticket, but I can't. He's run big in some situations. He actually killed some of my multi-race wagers here, is the 10, He Hate Me. He was 8-1 here on the morning line. He may be better suited for a shorter distance as a sprinter, but the 5-year-old gelding's always been competitive. He hits the board in 80% of his late-time starts, and he has Luis Saez in the iron. Saez has been completely hot this week, looking for a chance at actually getting the jockey title. He probably won't have the ability to catch Irad Ortiz, but he's had a hell of a week here at Gulfstream, and I'm not counting him out.
Well, Sig, I'll be quick with mine in this one because we're on the same page. This is a race that I went only 3 deep. I went deeper in the first leg, but I only went 3 deep here. If I would have went 4 deep, I would have all 4 of your horses. I went 3 deep. I went with the 3, Last Judgment on top. Todd Pletcher, second start. More importantly for me, out of the gate, this horse puts up a career high Beyer 91 last time out off the bench and has been training well since that start. So no reason not to expect Last Judgment to get the final judgment at the wire today and improve off of that. The second horse, number 8, you hit it. Nothing more to say with Vekoma. This is a horse that if was racing super up until the Kentucky Derby, and then we haven't seen the horse since. Been training well. If this horse has any kind of form like it was showing last year on the Triple Crown Trail, this is the best horse in the field. But first start in a long time, may need a start, but I cannot leave it off the ticket because I don't want it to blow up my pick 6. And the next horse is number 10. You talked about him as well. He Hate Me. I like him. His 2 starts this season off the bench, improvement, finished 4th in his first start, then come back, finish 2nd last time out. Put up 90 and 91 buyers in those 2 races. That puts him right there at the top of the class in this race. Now, the horse that I left off, your other choice, Jackson, I had to cut somewhere to cut the price of my ticket. I cut Jackson off. I agree with everything you said on Jackson, and he is in a race pattern. If you look at it, and here's another handicapping tip when you're reading the daily racing form. And guys, that is the racing program I like. There's Trackmaster, there's Brisnet, there's Equivet. Everybody has past performances. Most of the information is the same, but daily racing form has the proprietary speed ratings of Andy Beyer. And I love the Beyer speed figures. And when you look at Jackson, his 3 starts, last 3 starts, 81, 91, and then last time out, 97, which is the top in the field. This horse is continuing to improve. You like to look at horses that are ascending with those Beyer speed figures, not descending. So if I went 4 deep, we would be in total agreement, but I went 3 deep, 3, 8, 10. Moving to the 9th race, Sig, on the Gulfstream card, 1 mile turf race. This is the Sand Springs Stake. Who do you got for yours, and how deep are you going here in the 9th?
All right, Marco. I went 4 deep here as well. This race was run last year at this time. The 5-year newspaper of record would have been the single, no questions asked, no doubt about it. But she's been off. She's been off since last year's Belmont Oaks Invitational, and we haven't seen her since. I'm not sure if she had an issue there or not, but looking to take a shot here with her. Chad Brown's been working heavily with her, and you mentioned earlier about the training patterns, a fast training session followed by a little bit slower workout. Take a look at the workouts here for Newspaper of Record. She's doing exactly that, which means I think she's ready to fire here tomorrow. And if she is on her A game, she is the horse to beat, and she would be a single. But because she has been away from the track for so long, I am sticking with 4 horses in here. The next horse I think has a chance to possibly win this race is the 2, Zofella. It's 9-2 morning line. Came off a rough start, her last one in February at Fairgrounds. She was 7 wide on the trip in the stretch, but still it wasn't good enough there to get there. But the wide trip, I think, had a lot to do with that. Had to run a lot more than the other horses in the field. She's a closer, and it appears that this race will set up for her well, as Mike Maker has the 10-horse Jakarta entered in here, who's been known to do nothing but sprint. So I see her firing out of the gate here, getting them a fast early pace, which will set this race up for a closer. I know we're running tight on time here, so the last 2 I have are 7, Get Mother a Rose, and the 12, Valedictorian. They're both coming in off the same race. Valedictorian came up empty in the stretch there, but she is that was her first start of a 5-month layoff, and she may have needed that race. I'm not counting her out here. Marco, who do you like?
I like in this race, I am going with number 5 as well. Class on the paper for sure. Newspaper of record. That last start was bad. First start, but training well. And Chad Brown's a guy who doesn't put horses in races that don't fit, and I think he'll have the horse ready. Number 2 is the horse that I have second in this race, and I agree with you. That last start got bumped at the start, and that's what took him out of the race. Got pushed back way back and had to run, as you said, wide the entire trip, and still was closing in that race and got up to as close as 3rd, but had to use up too much horse to get there. I think a better rated race and a clean trip inside post will be able to do that. And I like the jump to Joel Rosario. I think he can get the most out of a horse, especially on the turf. Like him second, and then my 3rd place horse in here, going outside to number 12, and this is number 12, and we're looking at Valedictorian, and this is the 2nd start of the season. Raced decent, was tracking the speed in that race. First time out of the box. and then came up short, faded in the stretch. And again, Paco Lopez on. I'm not going to overlook. So I am going 5-12 in race 9. Race 10, Sig. We'll go a little condensed, as you said, because we want to spend more time on the Florida Derby. Give me your horses in race 10.
I've got 3 horses here in the final leg. I have the 6, Mean Mary. She's a pace setter. She's looking to go out, get the lead here, and take them right from start to finish. Number 12, Elizabeth Way, 9-2 morning line is my second choice. She's won both her North American starts after coming over here last summer from Europe. She's shown the ability to come from off the pace, and I look for her to make a big run here at the leaders. My third choice and final in that race is the 5, Gentle Roller. 7-2 is the morning line favorite. It's a mare that loves to win these longer turf races. And it doesn't matter where she does. If you look at her past performances, she's basically won races all across North America. So I can't leave her off this ticket. She has a good trainer in Ian Wilkes and a good jockey in Chris Landeros. 6-12-5 here in the final leg.
All right, we're in agreement, but I went 4 deep in this one. I went 5, 12, 6, 7, and that is the top 3 for me, or top 4, 5, 12, 6, 7. And I'll talk about the horse that I added, the 4th horse that you don't have, since you mentioned the other 3, which I agree with wholeheartedly. The 7 horse, Cap de Cruz. This is a Todd Pletcher horse. Again, Joel Rosario on the horse today. This is a horse that's been ultra consistent. Did have trouble in its last race, bumped at the start. Didn't get, usually is a horse that gets away mid-pack. Got bumped at the start, got away 12th. Was running next to last most of the race. Came on, finished 8th, but only got beat 4 lengths in the race. At one time in that race was 16 lengths out of it in the midpoint of that race, and rallied to finish 4th by just 4 lengths. I think clean trip today, and with the expected speed in this race, this is a horse that could be flying late, and you could get at a price 10-1, and that's what I added onto my card. So, Sig, I'll read your pick 6. You've got it, or pick 4, and this is races 7 through 10 tomorrow at Gulfstream. This is the Saturday pick 4. This is the middle pick 4, races 7, 8, 9, and 10. Sig's going race 7, 7, 5, 8, 3. In the next race, 3, 8, 7, 10. In race 9, 5, 2, 7, 12. And in race 10, 6, 12, 5. And that was a $72 ticket, correct?
77, Marco. 77.
Oh, 77. All right. And then I am going with race 7, 7, 5, 9, 8, 3. Race 8, 3, 8, 10. Race 9, 5, 2, 12, and race 10, 5, 12, 6, 7. And my ticket cost $90. As I said, if you want to shorten this ticket, you can take what we gave you and just eliminate 1 horse off of a line, and that'll bring down the cost for it if you want to do it. Again, if you're taking 1 horse off, I suggest you do it, take the last number that we read. All right, we talked about that. We gave our race of the day. We gave a free pick 4. And those last 2 races, Sig, race 9 and 10, actually are the first 2 races of the Rainbow Pick 6, correct?
That is correct, Marco.
All right. Now, I think there's a big race left on the card Saturday at Gulfstream. That would be the Curlin Florida Derby. Going to be bittersweet watching it this year, because last year I was there with our good buddy Ralph Michaels, and we went to Florida, and shout out to, I got to thank him every time, because what a day he provided for Ralph and I. Mark Lawrence has a box at Gulfstream Park, but obviously on super days like this, box is not available to him. But we were in the Flamingo Room, I think it's called, and it was just fantastic. We had table side seating, looking right out at the track. Buffet had crab legs, roast beef. It was like anything that the finer buffets here in Las Vegas would have been proud. And we ate all day. Lobster tail on the buffet. I ate unbelievable, and we had a fun day at the Florida Derby last year. Maximum Security won that race. I felt he stole it, and no pun intended, with that, and I'll explain in a second on that, but he stole the race based on got on top in very, very slow fractions. And when they put up the half, we were sitting at the table with everybody, and when the halftime popped up and I saw what the fractions were, I said, anybody's got a closer on top in their pocket, you can rip the ticket up now. There's no way that a closer is going to win this race because they went so slow the first half of that race, and he stole it. Now, since then, we've seen 2 weeks ago the indictments that have come out, and the trainer of Maximum Security was one of the lead people in that indictment for using in performance enhancing drugs, and one of the horses in question was Maximum Security. So that's why I said he stole that race maybe twice on the Florida Derby last year. But enough about that little history lesson. Tell us, this race, it's a pretty wide open race. I know there's a heavy favorite in this race, and let's talk about him first. Seg, he's the big horse, the horse that everybody, if the Derby was run today, probably would be the favorite, and that's Tis the Law. Can he get beat on Saturday?
Any horse can get beat on any day, Marco. I can show you piles and piles of tickets that horses I said couldn't get beat that are now toilet paper. And in today's society, with this coronavirus and the quarantine, all those tickets might come to good use if I can't find any Keefe laying around. But the Holy Bull winner, ever since his initial race last year, his initial race last year, he's been the best looking last year 2-year-old and now best looking 3-year-old out there. He won the Holy Bull here last month by 3 lengths and basically made it look effortless. I mean, I don't think the horse was even asked to run at any point during that race. So he may see a little bit more of a challenge here tomorrow. We may actually see if he has what I like to call that extra gear. We've seen in a few horses here over the past couple of years that when they're asked to run, they seem to find a whole new level. Actually, look, if you go back and you watch the Holy Bull too as well, he's handled trouble. When they made the first turn and came and started the backstretch in the Holy Bull here, he was cut off in the lane he was looking to take. The jockey had to check him back. He basically almost came to a complete stop and then just started right back. Had no effect on the horse at all. He seems to have a mind of his own, and he just races, and he knows when he needs to go. So I know he's going to be short odds tomorrow. He's showing 6-5 on the morning line. I'm sure you're going to probably actually be maybe 3-5, 2-5 come post time on him. They got to beat him, and I don't think anybody in this field can beat him tomorrow.
Well, I'm going to go to 2 horses. I'll talk here, Sig, that I think have the shot to upset him. Granted, I agree with you. Tis the Law is the horse to beat. $110,000 purchase as a yearling. They did quite well with that purchase, as he's closing in on $500,000 in career earnings, and he's racing for $750,000 purse tomorrow. The horse that I'm going to look at, I'm going to start with number 9, Independence Hall. This is a horse that I think has a big shot in this race, has tactical speed. That means he can leave the gate, and having the outside post and being outside Tis the Law is going to go to the top. Will he cut them out the race, or will he let someone else go? He has the ability to rate and go second. One of the things that has been a problem with Independence Hall in the past is this is a horse that gets a little rambunctious in the paddock, in the post parade. And sometimes if you've ever seen a horse when they're doing a post parade and you see them walking and you see all this white stuff on them and you go, what's that? What's going on there with that horse? That's called a horse lathering up. And sometimes horses, they get hot, high strung. They start to sweat and so forth, and they actually start to take some of their energy away from themselves because they're doing too many things that they shouldn't be doing. Whether it's stress or anxiety, the horse, just like people, they're the same. And this is one of those horses. But what makes horses rambunctious? Going to the paddock, a lot of noise, the crowd. Oh, wait a minute. There is not going to be a crowd on Saturday at the Florida Derby. This might be the biggest break for this horse. It's going to be more like training in the morning with the number of people that are going to be there, because it's going to basically be just the handlers of the horses. Yes, he'll have that paddock experience, but when he comes out of the paddock, there's not going to be thousands and thousands of people screaming and cheering and everything else. So the horse is going to be able to relax some. And I think that's a big advantage for this horse. And if you look 3 races back, which goes back to last November, this was a 2-year-old that put up a 101 buyer. This horse has a license to improve, and I think is going to be the horse that gives the biggest battle to Tiz the Law. Now, with that said, if he does give him a big battle, and these two wear themselves out a little bit in the stretch, is there a closer that could be sitting just off the pace and pick up the pieces? And I think that horse could be number 5, Gouverneur Morris. This is a horse, big purchase. This was a $600,000 yearling purchase. Todd Pletcher. No wonder Todd Pletcher always has good horses whenever he's got owners that are spending $600,000 on yearlings and $975,000 on yearlings. This is a horse that, is out of the gate, 1 start this year. Tampa Bay, raced great, 87 buyer figure. Off the bench, he raced in September and October, just 2 foundation races, a win and a second, and they shut him down to prepare him for the 3-year-old campaign. I think this is a horse that's going to get a lot of action from the wise guy. He's been training well in the morning, and I think this is the type of horse that will be sitting just off the pace in that 3rd, 4th, 5th spot and be one of those first to attack. And I think the 5 and the 9 are the 2 horses that I think have the best shot of upsetting Tiz the Law. Who else do you like in this race? Do you got any long shots you like?
There are 2 long shots that I like here in this race, Marco. The first is the 1 horse as seen on TV, 12-1 on the morning line. I think you have to use this horse on your exactas and trifectas, as he hit the board in both of his starts at Gulfstream in stakes races, both the Mucho Macho Man in January, as well as he battled down the stretch here with chance to only lose by a head in that race. He came back in February and was just edged out for the place by Candy Tycoon, finishing game 3rd to Ete Indian. He's working well, and he's been improved in each of his races. I could see a big race coming from him. I do have one other long shot here, and it's Disc Jockey, the 3. He's 20-1 on the morning line. I like him. He's trained by Safi Joseph, who is a newer trainer to North America, but he's been hot this entire Gulfstream meet. And this horse only has 3 races under his belt, but I think he could put in a late charge and come closing to pick up the pieces here in some exotic wagers as well.
And Sig, who were your top horses? Because you did say the 7, and then I talked the 5 and the 9 and the 9 and the 7 and the 5.
Well, I got just a lot of 7 with the 9, as we agree on the 9. I also agree with you on the 5 on Gouverneur Morris. And just to add to what you said on there, he reminds me a lot, the Pletcher training of him reminds me a lot of what he did with Always Dreaming in 2017, who won the Florida Derby and then went on to win the Kentucky Derby. Ran optional claimer here in February after being a layoff, and then came in and fired at the Florida Derby. Pletcher has a knack for getting these horses primed and ready for these big days, and I do see a big race possibly coming from him.
Yeah.
Go. Everyone can.
Yes, sir.
Everyone can hear me now. It's the Prez hijacking Marco's show. Marco, you mentioned long shots. I just heard it.
Yes, sir.
I'm giving. I think you're plus 800 heads up against me in poker.
This heads up match is going to happen. We got to figure a way to stream it and do it somehow that would be fun. I will take the challenge against you. Heads up.
I'm not going to give you plus 800 though. I'll give you plus 120.
All right. Well, we'll work out the details here. We'll get a prize pool and a package.
And Marco, I'm going to figure out how to stream it live.
You figure it out. We'll do it.
I will work on it this weekend. We will stream a live heads up match, me and you, and we're going to do it for money. I want to do it for shares in WagerTalk, but.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, let's keep it to money. You don't give away the house here.
Great show, boys. I'm going to mute myself again. But anytime, right. Marco D'Angelo.
We'll make it happen. Sig, getting back to the race. We are almost in complete agreement for the Florida Derby. With the horses you said, I started off with the 5 horse, but my 2 horses to beat him, the 9 and the 7. And then after that, I go 12, 3, 1, basically same numbers that you have. I have Disc Jockey a little bit higher than you do. This is a horse that I feel is going to sit off the pace. And I like the pattern that this horse has had. If you look at the horse, he had his first win last September. Then they quit with him. They raced him once. They won, got the experience, shut him down, got him ready for the 3-year-old campaign. Comes out early January, right off the bench, gets the win, 5 3/4 lengths. Easy win, 85 buyer rating, and then comes back in February, puts him in a tougher race, a smaller stake, finishes second in that race, came from behind, was 11-horse field. He broke away next to last, but continued to improve throughout the race and finished second in that race with a buyer of 89. So you've got that pattern of each of his 3 races. His buyer figure continued to go up. This is a horse on the improve. So Disc Jockey, I think, is a very live long shot to use on your tickets. All right. So Siggs plays for the Florida Derby. His order right now looks like 7-9-5-12-1-3, correct?
That's correct.
And I am looking, have the 5 on top, but we're looking to run them over with the 9-7 and then 12-3-1. Sig, we're going to, at this point in time, we always talk about handicapping tip or questions. We did have another question come in to us today, and that question came from Brett Price. He wants to know, are there any windows still open in Vegas to bet the ponies? Unfortunately, no. The best, I do all of my horse wagering from my house on my app, and I always use Stations Casino. They have horse racing on their app, and I think it's the best horse app in Vegas. Unfortunately, Stations shut the app down during the shutdown, so we can't do that. If you're at other places, you can open up accounts. TVG, ExpressBet, there's plenty of online. Twin Spires has one. Any other places you'd suggest online?
My favorite, it's not available in every state, but BetPTC is a good one. Twin Spires has a good interface. I'm not a huge fan of their rebates or their point system, which they call it, but those as well.
All right, so check that out. And a lot of times, if you open a new account with some of these, they have signing bonuses for you, where if you deposit X number of dollars, they will match it or give you a $100 bonus, whatever. So check some of those out if you're looking to play the races on Saturday. This is a time where we're going to give a handicapping tip. Sig, did you have anything you wanted to give? Each week we want to try to do that. And my handicapping tip is also going to lead into the last part of the show where we're going to have story time where I am going to tell you a horse story, and it's actually going to correlate with my handicapping tip. Before I do that, do you have anything you want to give?
Well, I know we're running a little long here, but my quick tip was that when you're going to handicap a race, when you're looking at the past performances, find the horses on there that can't win a race. I did that. We were going to the Florida Derby. If we had more time, I would have gone over that with you guys. But it was a 12-horse field with one alternate entry. I was able to cut the field in half by eliminating 6 horses right off the bat that I felt could not compete in that race. It makes your job a lot easier, and it makes it a lot easier, especially when you're building your exotic tickets.
All right. For me, my tip is I don't like betting maiden races, and I try to stay away from maiden races unless I actually have some information. And information would be that the owner's connections I might be friends with or something, or know somebody that knows somebody, and that happens a lot in the horse industry. That's why I like owning horses. I like being on the backside, talking with different trainers and so forth. This is maiden races. You don't know what the agenda is. There, everybody thinks that every horse is in the race, that the goal was to win the race. And ultimately, that is 95% of the time. But I'm going to tell you, in maiden races, the hardest jump is from a maiden to racing against straight winners. That's the biggest jump a horse is going to take in his career, early in his career. And a lot of times, the maiden races might be garbage. There might not be anything in there, and a horse can win easily. But if you throw the horse in there and you just send him to the front and roll with him and he wins, well, did the horse really learn anything in that race? And the problem with that is that when he goes to the next race, he can't go wire to wire against tougher horses, and he doesn't know how to rate. He doesn't know how to pass horses in different things. So oftentimes, trainers will tell the jockeys, listen, this horse is young. The horse is green. We want to teach him. Take him off the gate. Have him get mud thrown in his face. Let him get that dirt, thrown him. If you're on the front end, you don't get dirt thrown in your face. Let him experience everything, and then race him down the lane. Let him pass horses. And you're doing it as more of an education and training that you can't get actually training the horse in the morning, because you don't have 7, 8, 10 horses in there training with you when you're going on the track. So I'm not saying they're stiffing the horse, but I'm saying they don't want the horse to give maximum effort sometime in maiden races because they're not ready to go to that next level. Now, with that said, it's story time, and we're going to talk about a horse that I had was making me money and was racing in what was called condition claimers. And that's something we'll talk about in another show. Probably the second least favorite races to bet, because a condition claimer is you put a horse in for a price tag. Generally, the prices are higher than the horses are worth. But you're protecting these horses because they're generally 3- and 4-year-olds. They're young, but they've only won X number of races. So they'll have a condition claimers for maiden condition claimers. That's the cheapest. Then they'll have a condition claimer for non-winners of 2. Then they'll have one non-winners of 3, but not more than 6, which means you can win in that class. You could have 7 career wins before you're booted out of that race. If it's a non-winners of 3, but, not more than 6. Well, I had a horse that was racing in that class, and she got her 3rd win, then got a 2nd, got her, a win, got her 5th win, then got a 2nd, a 3rd. But we knew that once she got out of that class, the next level that she had to go to, she absolutely could not compete. This would be January 2009. I had just started dating my wife, Lori, out here. Met her in 2008. In 2009, I brought her home to meet the family. It was a big weekend. The Steelers were playing in a playoff game. So I got tickets to the playoff game, was taking Lori to the playoff game on Sunday. My horses were racing Thursday and Friday at the Meadows. I had my good horse racing the first day, Cat and Mouse, which is the mother of the horse that I have racing right now, Sin City Lori, and my other horse, All In Baby. And I wanted to take Lori to the racetrack. Well, the good horse was able to drop down in class from the last start. She didn't win the last start, which made her eligible for a lower class. Well, she was my best horse, and she was one of the best horses at the Meadows. And the fact that she got to drop in class meant she had a very good shot of winning. So I told my trainer, give her the next week off because I'm going to be there the following week. And I want her to make sure that she's going to get in. And I want to take Lori to the races. So the plan was to take Lori to the races on Thursday, see cat and mouse race, hopefully get our winner circle picture. We did. She won. Race won easily. Horse won big. And Lori, first time she had ever gone to a horse race, and she loves horses and just was so excited, got to go to the winner circle and everything. And then as we're leaving, I told Elle, I said, I'll talk to you later, my trainer and this and that. And Lori says, well, you have the other horse racing tomorrow, aren't you going? I said, well, I was going to, spend time with family, go do some other things. And all along, I knew the horse couldn't win. Well, we really didn't want the horse to win. Okay. It was one of those races that one more win and she was done. And it was working out that each week there was a good horse in there that, was just a tad better than us. And so that was great. We kept finishing second. And so I didn't want to go to the track because the track's an hour away from me. But Lori wanted to go back and say, oh, you're not giving her any, you could do it. And I didn't want to tell her that we would rather her not win. But she wanted to go see All In Baby. And as the race went, the other horse in the race was odds-on favorite, Tons the Best. And they bet the crap out of the horse. And I knew we were second best. And I just pounded the exacta with the other horse and us. And when the other horse made its move, we made the move behind it. And the horse went to the top. Leading driver at the Meadows was on the other horse. And he opened up on the field. We tucked in behind him because he cleared so fast. And we cleared. We were able to get back to the rail. And these two horses opened up 10 on the field to the rest of them. And I'm like, oh, this is great. Good. We're going to get an easy second. And, 2 purse checks of second place finishes equal a win. So the horse is making us nice money in there. Everything's good. And at the top of the stretch, the 2 horses were on top of the field by 10 lengths. We're running second behind the horse there. And the horse on the lead, for some reason, took a bad step and went off stride and left us alone on the front end. And Lori's yelling, go, 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 baby, go, our horse. And I'm sitting there and my trainer's sitting there, and in the back, in our heads, we're yelling to ourselves, not out loud, but in our heads, no, no, no. Because we knew that would be the last time we would get a check with that horse. She won, got her picture taken, and Lori's like, she's the lucky charm, 2 for 2, both horses raced, won. That horse never won a race again, and that was my story time horse story for today, and that's going to wrap up the show. I want to thank Sig for joining us. Check out Sig at WagerTalk. Every day Gulfstream is running. He is putting up his selections. He gives, tell the listeners what they get for $9, Sig.
Well, you get my full card selections, which are my top 3 selections for every race on the card, plus an alternate in the event of a scratch. There's usually some exacta and trifecta wagers on there, a number of daily doubles, a pick 4 ticket, a pick 5 ticket. Pretty much it's all inclusive on the package for $9.
Can't beat that. And as you guys know, I always do the big races, the Triple Crown races and stuff. We've had great success. I do handicap horses whenever it's slow time. Well, no sports, it's slow time right now. So for tomorrow, I will have a card up. I'll do what I did last Saturday where we had a Racing Across America. I'll cover some of the big races. I'll look at Santa Anita. maybe something from Oaklawn Park. And I will have some races from Gulfstream as well, because it is a big day, including how I am going to attack the Florida Derby as well. You'll be able to pick up that at WagerTalk tomorrow as well for $9. So, hey guys, for less than a $20 bill, you'll get the Pony Pundits. Get both of our plays, SIG exclusively at Gulfstream. You'll get me with a mixture of Gulfstream and Santa Anita and maybe another track or two. So be a good investment and let you have some action for Saturday. We all are just craving it and looking forward to getting back to normal. So, guys, I want to thank you for our initial edition of the show, the Pony Pundits. We'll be back next Friday. Now, I want to tell you there's going to be programming change. Next week, all the shows here at Wager Talk, we're going to have a daily show. That daily show will be at 3 o'clock Eastern, live streamed every day. You'll be able to check out the shows Monday and Tuesday. You'll have the Prez meet the experts. He'll interview one of our Wager Talk cappers. Wednesday, yes, it is the Big Gun Show. You get the lovely Kelly Stewart and Minty Betts along with our buddy Gianni. I want to understand how he got that gig while he got to talk to Kelly and Minty. I got you, Sig. I guess I drew the short straw there on that one.
Came up short, that's for sure.
And I forget who was on Thursday's show. I'm sorry, but there is Minty does a show. Teddy. Minty and Teddy on Thursday. Yes. See, again, Teddy draws me. What the hell? What's going on here? I'm one of the co-founders of Wager Talk.
I forgot who's on the Friday show already.
All right. This is it for the Pony Pundits this week. We went a little long on the first show, but guys, if you like the show, please go in to the comment section. Tell us, give us your feedback, what you think, what you want. You want more stuff from us? Tell us that. And of course, always, if you've got questions for us, do it. Hey, YouTube, hit the subscribe button, guys. Follow us this way. You'll never miss a show. Hit that like button. And guys, till next week, hope I see you in the winner's circle. Thanks, Sig. And that has been the first edition of the Pony Pundits.